Hello and welcome. This is episode number 57 of the vCD Roundtable. And in today's episode, we wanted to quickly cover a bit about what's currently going on in the CSP program. There are again a few changes and the latest around VCF and everything else we are going to discuss. And another heads up for Explore. Sasha, welcome.
Yeah, welcome to our roundtable today. Some interesting topics all around the licensing stuff. So we still have the first questions there.
So yeah, let's maybe, as we have the first question here on specifically the license stuff, license replacement. Let me quickly put that in here. License replacement is really annoying so soon after the one in 2024, especially for white label. To make matters worse, Broadcom did not issue guidance on determining the number of keys for certain products. As we go into the second half of 25, Broadcom, for those who haven't seen it yet or haven't heard it yet, has asked once again to replace the license keys. This time, as we have to replace the license keys, the difference is we now get subscription keys. And the subscription keys in the end mean, from a Broadcom perspective, that they have a fixed expiration date and things like that. I would also expect that with one of the next updates, the old license keys are going to be discontinued, like what Broadcom did in end of 24 already with a bunch of license keys. So there is a very good reason for you to actually make sure that you replace the license keys in time, so that you are sure that if there are any critical or emerging patches you have to do, that you put them in place. On the other side, on specific license keys for specific products, so for vCD, etc., is, as far as I know, vCD does not necessarily really count. I mean, it has a counter for licenses for VMs and stuff like that, but it doesn't really do anything, at least the last releases, if not someone from Broadcom has changed something. That behavior has not really necessarily changed. So from that perspective, this shouldn't be too much of an issue. The challenge with all of this is that Broadcom requiring all master CSPs to actually execute this also for the white label hosts in a relatively short time frame. And considering that we have also end of life for vSphere 7 and a bunch of other things coming up, this is a combined, let's say, at least quite an effort. Sasha, what's your opinion on the license changes? And I mean, as you lead also, besides sales, our support team in these areas, is like, what has been the impact so far? What has been the scenario?
Yeah, we started to replace the licenses with our secondary white labels. Yeah, you are limited to 125%. That is one big problem with customers. They are using, for example, disaster recovery environments and currently have to license that environments. And now in the future, we need to find a solution how to license these environments. Maybe go with a commit, pay more. So that's one topic. The second topic is we are not longer able to create licenses for older versions. So I didn't test it because we still cannot name licenses, we still cannot remove licenses, we still cannot combine licenses. So we didn't try to make a downgrade until whatever is possible. I don't know if we can create vSphere 7 keys or not. But that's a point we need to take a deeper look, really, what happens there. Also, with the rollout of the new usage meters, make sure that you create all of your license keys for the NSX topics, because that will be counted as well with the new usage meter 9. So overall, yeah, there is a lot of tasks to do with creating the new license keys. I have expected that we get with this new change a description field per license key, maybe, where we can say, hey, that's customer ABZ or data center or cluster ABZ, because that's if you are a service provider, that's for your own environment useful information, as well as for the primary white labels to document. So now, again, you have to create your Excel files or tables or databases with all of that information.
Yeah, and as we look into these different scenarios, I think the important part is, as far as I remember, Broadcom said you can use the current major release plus one release back. So that would, in theory, with now VCF9 being out, mean that they might actually get themselves in the position that they say is like, yeah, you can't get any VCF7 keys anymore, which kind of leads us a bit into an adjacent topic for all of that, because the other challenge, which I know everybody has done the migration from V2T already, this is just some remaining test systems and stuff like that. But let's face it, we see a huge demand coming up again and again for V2T migrations at the moment. And we are still supporting them. We are offering them as not only from a support perspective, but also that you can outsource them to us, and we do them depending on the infrastructure, even on a fixed fee scenario. But your time is really, really running out now, because once vSphere 7 is gone, this is actually going into a completely unsupported territory, because we have already a territory which is difficult at the moment because the migration tool by itself is officially no longer really fully supported. But once vSphere 7 is out of the support range, that would actually take the underlying hypervisor and everything else out of that support area as well. And that could make some discussions really, really interesting. So V2T is more and more of an issue. So I think if you haven't started, so it's like get started immediately, because you're really, really running out of time for your V2T migration. And for all of those making fun about it or something like that, it's like, we know there are tons out there who have still not done any migrations. But considering the impacts also from a cybersecurity perspective, is you need to get it done, because you will not get any patches any whatsoever for the underlying hypervisor anymore. It's like you can ignore the NSX spec, where it's already quite a while for NSXV where you didn't get any patches. But the problem is the attack vector on the NSX part was relatively low because the install base was low. The attack vector on an ES6, ES6i, however, is a completely different beast, because there are more ES6is out there. So there is a high chance, and I'm currently not expecting Broadcom to provide any any patches once the systems have been replaced, and so that's going to be a challenge. So, what's the status quo out there on the V2T migration scenarios, Sasha?
Yeah, so we have a lot of customers who are still doing V2T migrations. We have a lot of new customers who come into us now and say, hey, there was a topic we talked about 2 years ago. Maybe you can help us now. We have now from our Z level a fixed end date where we need to be finished, and that's mid of August, mid of September. So and that's a big challenge now. But to be fair, you need to start, you need to take a look, and there are some challenges because most likely there are some newer configurations that are no longer supported with migration tool. There is the latest migration tool 10.4.2.2 from the community, so some bugs are fixed and some new features are included now. So from that perspective, it looks good. But other than that, you need to get it done until end of September latest to be in support, at least with your vSphere version then, because otherwise you're running completely out of support. It's still now a bad situation for you if you need to tell your customers, hey, we need to do the V2T migrations, and if the customer asks you, hey, I heard NSXV is out of support since years now, and yeah, it is what it is. You need to communicate it because there is a small maintenance window you need. So normally there is only a few pings missing, but yeah, in some cases or some scenarios, you need to power down VMs or whatever, and for that you need the maintenance window.
Good. So taking the V2T route aside, where are we currently from a usage meter perspective? As we are replacing that for all our CSPs, any major incidents seen so far? Everything going as planned? Anything we can help our, let's say, audience with?
No, it's very easy. So what we did is we prepared all of the authentication keys in the cloud platform. So going to all usage meters, and as we have a lot of white label customers, there are a lot of usage meters. So yeah, create a list with these authentication tokens, and then schedule the meetings with the customers, or do it by yourself. Your usage meters, deploy the update using the keys, and then you are good to go. So it's easy. So the biggest challenge from our perspective currently in the usage meter updates is to make sure and communicate with the customer, go through the environment and take a look if there are stateful firewall rules in place, because that is the biggest challenge. So we saw a lot of customers with that, where we gone through NSX and saw that they are using distributed or gateway firewall, in most cases gateway firewall, but also in some cases distributed firewall, and the team was not aware of. So one team said clearly, hey, that must be configured before we started to work here at our company now. And that is a big challenge. And they never go through all of the environments and checked what they are using and whatnot. We explained it at the beginning of white label very clearly. Hey, that are the different license models. But then, yeah, we saw it now, and there are a lot who needs to commit on vDefend licenses now for gateway firewall, and also some for distributed firewall. That's important to know also, that the customer is aware that overage will be counted for that. Additional, that in combination with the new licensing will become interesting, because on all contracts where vDefend is not licensed, you are not able to create vDefend license keys. That will become an interesting scenario in the next months, because Broadcom said clearly, hey, you need to replace the license keys, but for that you need license keys, and depending on how many contracts you have, and if you have the right contract with the right items, that's fine. If not, if you have more than one contract and need vDefend licenses because the customers have not signed the vDefend commit yet, yeah, it will become complicated. Maybe.
Yeah, I think when you look at the license key scenario, so on one end you have the vDefend story. The other story is, I was just on a conference, on a German IT conference as a speaker last week, and spoke to several service providers over there. Is the overall, yeah, people feel that they are unclear on what the current situation is, and how they should really deal with the overage in specific scenarios, because we also have a similar scenario where some of our white labels in the past were just perfectly fine with the fact that they were paying a huge amount of overage every month for now nearly 1.5 years, or 2.5 years. And now that we have to limit them to 125%, this is actually going to be interesting, whether people are then just going to either commit for the remaining amounts, or, which in the end is actually less money for Broadcom, to be fair, or if they are then actually going to just say it's like, we are taking it out. it's really going to be a question. The question is going to be, depending on the product, is it really limiting? Because we know from many Broadcom products or from many VMware products, except for ESXi vCenter and a few other things, is many of the license keys are not actually limiting features. So it could actually be that you still would have a higher overage. The question is, how would Broadcom deal with that? Because they now legally told everybody it's 125%, and we need to figure out what that's going to be. But so that is all around license changes, usage meters, and stuff like that. I think this is going to follow us along a bit longer than Broadcom estimates, because the time window is very optimistic, considering, especially in Europe, we have summer break. That's a nice announcement to say, it's like, all of you need to change the license keys, but the challenge is we need to have maintenance windows, and that requires there is enough staffing on the customer side. And so all of that comes into a time window where staffing, at least in Europe, is pretty limited. So we will see if this plays out for all over Europe and what the consequences are going to be. But that's going to be interesting. But let's keep that one out of the side. Is VCF9 is out. People have been starting looking into VCF9. We had a longer episode, so if you want to go back one episode, then you can actually follow along our complete VCF9 episode. But what we are still missing is the compatible vCD release, which was promised to be there pretty soon. So far, it's not there yet. At least it's not publicly there, and we haven't heard anything from a patch release or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting how long it's going to take until this is going to be available. Also, huge warning, when you see the different multi-tenant stories out there on the internet, is not every multi-tenant story is truly multi-tenant. So only because you can log in with the same user account in two different orgs does not necessarily declare a system multi-tenant. There are a few more requirements for that. And so while some people say it's like, oh, it's already ready, it's like, no, there are issues with that. So be careful on these areas. Broadcom themselves actually said it's only going to be for dedicated workload domains. So it's interesting that people think that they have figured out a different approach for that already. But I'm also expecting that we will get far more clearance during the Explore event in August in Vegas, and get more feedback from Broadcom around what's going to happen to vCD, what the timelines are going to look like, what all the other aspects out of it are. And I'm really looking forward to hear more about that. The last few days and weeks, Broadcom is currently more focused on VCF9 success stories, on where they are utilizing it, which providers they are talking to, and stuff like that. So getting to know more on the roadmap, I think that's what's going to happen during Explore in a couple of weeks. But Sasha, besides that, it's like, I know that we work with the first CSPs also on some VCF9 early design phases, fully aware that this might not immediately go into production. Any interesting stories you want to share from that side?
Yes, a few customers started now to say, hey, we need new management clusters and so on, and trying to figuring out the different impacts of the new license keys and all of that stuff. And there's one customer who said, yeah, maybe we start now with an VCF9 stretched management cluster and put other old vSphere 8 and NSX4 management VMs also in this VCF9 management cluster to get the first hands on, and can start with VCF9 with these hardware cycles that coming up in the next months for dedicated or physical cloud customers, dedicated customers with dedicated workload domains. So that's the idea from one customer. Other customers said clearly, we plan normally to go with 5.2, and maybe we should discuss now to go directly on 9 to don't have the second migration in the future. So we are currently writing down the requirements of all of that and figuring out what are the impacts. We have a lot of demo environments running now to figuring out what's possible, what's not. What are the impacts if you're going directly with 9? So from a network perspective, from a combination perspective of some automation stuff and so on. So there is not really a finished list now, but we clearly see that the service providers wants to go this VCF9 way and started to take a look left and right and figuring out how they can make it possible for their customers.
And I think the interesting part is also going to be is like, when are we going to see the first patch releases around VCF9? And so not a security patch. I'm really looking more towards bug fixes, maybe some smaller feature enhancements and stuff like that. How big these release updates are going to be, in not from a file size, but really from a feature size perspective, to get a fully or a more clear understanding on where we are expecting to be, and how quickly Broadcom is going to move along now to make adjustments. And again, I'm expecting Explorer is going to tell us quite a bit more around that. The other interesting thing as we speak about Explorer as well is, from what we see and hear, is the Explorer on Tour schedule has been released. And it has not only been released for certain locations, they are already setting up two-day events. So for example, London and Frankfurt both have two-day events scheduled as of today in the schedule. So that might actually mean we have potentially advisory boards and other things going to happen there. But so as a CSP, if you are not going to travel to explore in Vegas and you are looking for the European ones or something like that, you should definitely check in for these specific ones and see which ones you are going to join and when, and how you're going to deal with it. Also, as a reminder for Explorer in Vegas, we are still giving away some public seats at our Comdivision and Friends dinner. So if you want to actually meet with us over a steak, then make sure that you join us on the Sunday night. We will have a steak dinner at one of at least our favorite restaurants. And then for those who can't make it Sunday night and who don't want to actually go on a big party on Monday or want to go there later, we are going to host the Comdivision poker tournament again in the Venetian Poker Room. No money needed, no nothing. Yes, there are a few requirements which you can find on the webpage, but we would love to see you join us there. Anything else around Explore you want to talk about, Sasha?
No, I think come there. I think it will be very interesting this year, also Las Vegas, to see VCF9, to see the power of VCF9 also in the community and in the different talks. So I'm really interested in some sessions talking about deeper VCF9. So there are some discussion rounds about VCF9 and also for service providers. So I think that will become very interesting and really showing the future, what happens. And I hope we will have more attendees than last year. So from that perspective, and
yeah, that's going to be amount of attendees is going to be an interesting story for this year. Is last year we still had both conferences. We had Europe and we had US. Didn't we also have a third one last year still?
Yeah, the Asia Pac.
There was the Asia one as well. And for this year, we only have this one major conference and then the pop-up events in the different locations. So it's going to be interesting how this is going to affect count of attendees. Also, what type of attendees are going to join us? Is it more enterprise customers than partners? And how is this going to actually reflect what's happening in the market? We still see from time to time some interesting press. I mean, there is constantly something going on. But also on the other side, beside the press, we see in real life what's happening is a lot of the PS engagements with us, where people come with VCF implementations, upgrades, brownfield migrations, and stuff like that. So there is obviously a huge amount of customers who are going to stick with VMware. They are just not in media. So this is something which you also need to consider, is like there is a lot of fuss being made around those customers who left. We just published a few videos about something we did with a German customer, Ratio Data, on certain services. So no matter what's going to happen, it's going to be interesting. So headcount is going to be really something looking forward to. And I'm going to be interested to see how these local pop-up events are going to happen, how big they are going to be. We know them from AWS and from some other vendors. Microsoft does something similar as well. So it's going to be interesting. So that being said, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover for today. Sasha, any final words?
No, yeah. Join us if you join the Las Vegas Explore event. Also, ping us if you are in Frankfurt or London. Maybe we are also in Paris. Let's take a look. And yeah, let's meet and let's come in contact.
And also on the back of the VCF9 topic, if you browse around social media, you will find some invitation links where you can set up meetings with our architects. So if you really want to have an architect meeting and discussion with us about how VCF9 can imply your infrastructure, feel free to use one of the links and actually sign up, whether you are an enterprise or a service provider. We are more than happy to do that. That's not a sales pitch. That's really clearly a tech talk. So hope to see you again soon. Our next recording is going to be in 2 weeks' time. We are potentially going to talk a bit more around VCF9 and some other upcoming news and final preparations for Explore. And hope to hear and see you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.